Welcome to PWS United, a podcast for the Prader-Willi syndrome community, brought to you by PWSA USA. This podcast gives the latest news in research, advocacy, and family support by bringing together staff, volunteers, PWS treatment specialists, biotech and pharmaceutical representatives, caregivers, family members, and individuals with PWS. Our goal is to share education, awareness, and resources with those living with PWS and their supporters. Join us in our mission to enhance the quality of life and empower those affected by Prader-Willi syndrome.
Having a sibling with a disability affects you more than you realize, in ways both big and small. It shapes how you see the world, how you interact with people, and even how you process emotions. And the truth is, most people will never fully understand what it's like. But that's why finding a community of people who do or want to is so important. They help you process, support you, and remind you that you are not alone on this journey. That was an anonymous quote from an adult sibling of someone with PWS, which leads us into today's lovely conversation all about siblings. And of course, it's not just any sibling, but our siblings who grow up with PWS in the home, a very unique experience to be sure. Now on the podcast today is our beloved parent support coordinator, Kristi Rickenbach, along with board members Denise Servais and Lisa Lamb, and of course me, Annie. Typically I'm on here with Carrie and we go through the pulse, but this episode is all about siblings. So all of us on here today are parents of children, one of whom has PWS. And in our conversation, we discussed our feelings of getting it wrong, of overmanaging social situations and lives, of letting siblings take on responsibilities perhaps a little too young, overcompensating for the challenges of PWS and our time away, and other feelings of inadequacies. We discuss the importance of quality time, of making sure the sibling is heard, how to validate their feelings and be vulnerable, fairness and the difference between equality and equity, and why we should be talking honestly with our children. We want you all to know that you are not alone, that feeling inadequate or that you're not getting it quite right or questioning your parenting is absolutely normal, and we can all relate. We would also like to know how we as an organization and as parents can better support siblings in our community. So if you have any ideas for that, any tips on how we can be more supportive, please feel free to email Fricke at pwsausa.org. That link will be in the show notes. Or you can head over to Facebook or Instagram and find this episode's social media post and leave a comment. And let us know, again, the kind of support you need, or share your tips with us. How do you support your sibling? Basically, we're trying to start the conversation so that we can learn more about how we can be supportive. April 10th is National Siblings Day, and in honor of that Awareness Day, along with our many wonderful, incredible siblings, we are putting out some sibling resources. You can find those on social media next week or in this week's Pulse, coming out on Friday, April 4th. If you have not signed up for our Pulse email newsletter yet, you can find a link to do that in the show notes or visit our website at pwsausa.org. And now, without further ado, let's get into this conversation about PWS and supporting the siblings.
My name is Denise Servais. I live in Minnesota, Lake Elmo, Minnesota. I have 3 children. I'm married. I have a 22-year-old, a 20-year-old, and she has Prader-Willi syndrome, and I have a 16-year-old. They're all girls.
Oh, nice. Okay, so she's right in the middle. Your
Right.
daughter with PWS. That's how my girls are. I have 3 girls, and Freya is the one in the middle.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, thanks for being here. Lisa, would you like to go next?
Hello, I'm Lisa Lamb, and I am in Arizona, and I have 2 daughters. McKenna, who's 14, she has Prader-Willi syndrome, And then her sister is going to be 13 next week. I've been married for almost 17 years and just living the life.
Nice. So they're pretty close in age.
Very close.
Yeah. Okay. That's
15 months.
15 months. Yep. Mine are 16 and a half. My two younger ones, 16 and a half months apart. And then we have the beloved Kristi Rickenbach with us, who many of you know. But Kristi, if you just want to kind of lay out your sibling so we know the dynamic.
Sure. I'm Kristi Rickenbach. I am in Minnesota also. I have 5 children. My youngest, Justice, has PWS. Yep, that's what I have.
Yeah. And the ages go up from there. She's 21. Yeah.
She is 21. Yeah. And my oldest is 33. My gosh. Wow. I had to think about that one.
I know that makes you feel old when you start naming the age of your children. I have 3 daughters. My oldest is 20 and Freya is 13 and my youngest is 12.
I should also say I have 4 girls and 1 boy, and my son's right in the middle.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now,
We got 1 boy in all
One
of
boy
this.
in all this
A
mix.
lot of girls here.
Yeah.
A lot of hormones. No.
Uh-huh. So I wanted to I have a few questions, but one thing that came up the other day was that, Freya was having an issue with her friend and I was helping her work through it and kind of doing all this managing of this social situation. And then when that was fixed, I kind of immediately turned to Rona. She was having a birthday party the next day. I was like, let's make invitations. No, Mom, I don't need to. No, we should make invitations. I can do it for you. And she said, Mama, you don't have to control this situation. And I just had this, it just like hit me. And I was like, wow, I do so much managing of Freya's life that, so I guess that's the question. Like, do you guys find that you manage so much of your kids with PWS? You have to manage so much of their life. Does that kind of spill out onto your other kids? Do you find yourself kind of over managing their lives or under managing, like you don't have time?
I overmanage. I mean, there's so much routine in McKenna's life that I have to almost, everything's worked around McKenna. So there's those pockets, everything's structured for McKenna all day even. And then when I get a little pocket of time, I fit sister in. And so I'm overcompensating a lot because the day is very structured around McKenna. And then she's these little pockets that I need to also manage and, control like what's going on, what's happening. So over management of both.
Mm-hmm.
I can relate to the routine. Yeah, when you have a kid with Prader-Willi, you have to have a routine. And I have a backup plan for a backup plan for a backup plan. I found myself just the opposite, though, with her siblings. With Maya's oldest sibling, I just found myself letting her take care of too much. And I think I let her grow up too quickly. And in hindsight, it's 2020. I might have done things a little differently. And I think I've been trying to deal with things a little differently, but I think maybe I let her take the reins maybe a little before she was ready.
I agree with that though too. So Madison, my younger one, she is almost anything she wants to do or anything she need, whatever. I just say, okay. And I kind of just throw her out there as well because I don't have time. And it's sad because I'm so involved with Prader-Willi and what that looks like. And the other one's just kind of, okay, yeah, you go here. Sure. I'll make it work. Can you stay all day? Can you do this? Sure. Can someone bring you home? I mean, it's almost like how you said, Denise, just like they're growing up so fast. Mine's
Right.
going to be barely 13 and she's
Right.
kind of just doing life. And we kind of have to
Right.
tread lightly a little bit because I don't want to overstep. And then now I have 2 that are having moments and tantruming. And I'm like, well, if I can tread along the water with the typical daughter, I don't have to deal with her outbreaks when I have McKenna all day long.
It's not that Maddie protested or anything. It's just the opposite. She looked like she was functioning fine. She's a perfectionist. She takes, she's very serious about everything and she gets her work done and she doesn't complain. So I just thought everything was fine, but it really wasn't. She was internalizing a lot of things and she didn't want to let me know because she thought, well, Mom has a lot to handle with Maya. So I'm going to, be a great daughter. I'm not going to give Mom any trouble. And looking back, maybe the signs were there, but I didn't see them. She just looked like she was handling everything so well and that she could handle it.
Yeah.
She's still a kid, right?
I feel like I can really relate to that. My youngest is like she's the one that's close to Freya's age, and yeah, she is a perfectionist, and she is always trying to step in. Like even this morning, because it's 9 a.m. here, so like this is like the start of my workday. So I was trying to get Freya out the door fast enough to school so I could get back, and she was struggling with stuff, and Rona was just right there, just like Freya, let's do this, and just really trying to manage the situation. And sometimes like I need that help, and then other times it's just like, oh, you don't have to fix this. It's okay. I can fix it. But she really wants to make things really easy for me. I see that.
I
I
get some of the opposite though with my child and the sibling thing because I do so much with McKenna, everything. And I know McKenna's capable of doing things and we were really working towards that independence. But her sister sees me do everything for McKenna. And it's almost like there's still the sibling is very much babied. I have the opposite kind of. It's just she's very babied and doesn't, it's like I can't do anything by myself because all she's known and all she sees is that we're doing things, everything for McKenna and her world and cooking and clean, and so now we're kind of in this, her sister wants more independence and now it's almost a backfire a little bit sometimes because how do I create independence for her to become a teenager and embark on that journey, successfully and independence in her self and daily world, but she sees me do so much with McKenna still that we sort of have a struggle in that.
Does she have
We
like,
don't get the help.
yeah, does she have like jealousy around it? Like, is that what you're
We
saying?
get,
Or
yeah, we get some of that. And I think she just gets frustrated that we're doing so many things for McKenna. And it's, again, back to that, just it's everything's always around her day, what's happening, anywhere we go, we leave situations sometimes. And it's just so sort of, yeah, I think it turns into that. And then it becomes some of the things, how can she control a situation to get our attention? So she's doing some things that we don't wish and like internalizing, and we have food issues on our side. So unfortunately, we've got the opposite sides of our spectrum that it's so controlled so much that now Maddie's just a loose cannon almost over here. And we have to kind of really pay attention to what is really happening in her world. Yes, it could be jealousy. Do any of you guys have that?
I mean, it makes sense. It makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense for sure. I think, and I worry honestly about Rona. For now, I see like her way of getting attention as being so good at what she does.
Mm-hmm.
And I just worry that there will be a point where that shifts to like, it's too hard to get attention that way. I'm going to get it a different way or,
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that's too where I also overcompensate for her because I don't want her to go in that route. So I'm like, okay, she's like, can I have this or I want this or these things? And I'm like, yes, 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 because I don't want to rock the boat. And then I don't want the bad behaviors to surface or just rebellion or, just other things that might surface.
Hmm.
It's like this, it's a very fine line, right? Because we want to make sure that they feel that we're giving them all the attention and the love that our child with PWS gets. And at the same time, we give in perhaps so much that they learn to almost take advantage of that
Mhm.
situation,
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, like Denise, if I could go back, I would definitely redo a lot of things that I did when my older kids were younger. Because they also just, I think, internalized a lot. They just, mom is gone. She's taking her to doctor. She's, I was traveling all over to take her Justice to all of her appointments. I tried to not miss any of their sporting events or whatever they were doing, but inevitably it happened, including the birth of my first grandchild, because of course my daughter went into labor early, when I was down in Florida. I was like, man, what are the odds of that? So, but I think that trying to manage all of that, trying to make sure that the siblings get the attention they need, the love, that they need and desire, but without sending them possibly into bad behaviors or bad habits, or because we do everything for them,
Mhm.
right? To try to compensate. So it's a very, it's a very tightrope that we are forced to walk
Mhm.
to try to do this. And there will be mistakes, right? So, but hopefully we can help other families not make the same mistakes that we made.
Yeah.
And that topic of attention, it's just a topic. It's been a reoccurring topic in our family. Maya gets so much attention. You're always with Maya, blah blah blah, And I'm kind of an all or nothing kind of person. It's like, okay, well, I gave Maya 5 hours, so I got to give my other kids 5 hours, and finally, I felt so exhausted. But then I finally realized, it's not the amount of time; it's the quality of time. If I even give the kids, my Maddie and Mallory, the just 10 minutes, and we just talk, or we go to the store together and we're just doing something together and we're connecting. That's all they want. They're not asking for me to take them, somewhere on a fancy trip or anything. They just want my attention. And if it's 10 minutes, sure, they like it if it's longer, but it's still important to them. And that's what I didn't quite get. I just thought it was the amount of time, but it's not. It's really the quality of time.
It's definitely the quality, and it's definitely making sure that they're heard, right? So when they're talking, like making sure that you find that kind of quiet space where you can listen to their concerns versus like having your other kids or, just whatever be around where they can't talk freely, right? So again, that car ride to a sporting event or at the store or whatever it's really important. And it's really important to try to schedule that time in no matter how hard it is.
And sometimes you schedule it and they don't wanna talk. And they'll be like, "No, I'm fine," and I kept saying, "Come on, tell me," and then they'd get mad. And then at a time where maybe it wasn't a good time for me, then they wanted to talk, and I had to remind myself, "Okay, this is important. I'm gonna stop what I'm doing, and I'm gonna shift my attention because this is the time they really wanna talk." So, they're on their own timetable sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
That is one of the hardest things about parenting, I find, is that having to show up completely in those times when you know that's what they need more than anything else and you just have not a lot to give. Those are the really hard moments for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody said parenting was gonna be easy, that's for sure. But then you throw in a PWS, and all of that comes with it, and it makes things a little more challenging for sure. But
And I don't know if this was, something else you guys had to deal with, but just the differences, like, well, how come Maya doesn't have to do as many chores as we do? Or how come Maya gets to do this and we don't? And it was always this issue about fairness.
Mhm.
One thing, a psychologist actually said to me one time is, "Your family motto is gonna be different is okay." Like, everybody's needs are going to be met just in different ways, and that's something we just always say. I even wrote a sign, "Different is okay." We're all different. We all have different needs.
Lisa Graziano, she said to me one time, it's about fairness, which is about you get what you need and not about, so it kind of goes into that equity versus equality thing of, the picture with like the fence and the three people at the fence, the one I'm talking about, they're all standing on a box and they all have the same size box and that's equality. But there's still like they're different sizes, so still not all of them are seeing over the fence. But equity is that they get the size of the box that they need. And so that's something that I try and talk to a lot about my kids. And it works both ways because, sometimes Freya doesn't have to do as much as Rona or gets to do things a little differently. But then also like because we don't hide food, we don't hide eating. Like Rona gets to eat more. She gets a bigger portion. That's just the reality of the situation. And sometimes that's frustrating for Freya. But, so I try and teach that across the board that like we all have different needs for various things. So yeah, I don't
and
know.
then I on that line, I think also, when the kids kind of start to complain, perhaps like, "Oh, why doesn't she have to do this?" Like, well, also Justice may never ever be able to do these things that you get to do. So, I mean, if you would like, you could you could not do as many chores, but then, let's put you in the same category, that Justice can't necessarily, she's not going to be able to drive. She's not going to be able to do certain things. So, yes, there is that whole kind of equity sort of thing all the way around. Agreed.
So, Kristi and Denise, I wonder if you could name a few more, because when you guys were saying if I could go back, I would do things differently. I was just picturing parents listening, being like, "Well, what would you do? What would you do differently?" And so, from the conversation, I pulled out, the quality time. Make sure that you have quality time with the other kids, and then making that time to make sure that they're heard, that they're having time with you to talk. And I'm just wondering if there's anything else that comes to mind. I know it's hard to like actually kind of name things, but just wanted to put that out there for a second.
Well, one thing I feel like I could have done a better job with was validating their feelings. I mean, I like to think that I am good listener, but sometimes and kids, express their grief and their frustration and their anxiety and their, expectations in different ways. But when they were just really frustrated with Maya and they were really sad that, maybe they were in grief that, why my sibling is not like everybody else's. And I was always trying to be that cheerleader. Okay, come on, guys, we can do this. Everything, we're going to figure this out. And one day, my daughter, I think, was having a really hard time. Maya was having a meltdown or something. And, I was about to say, this can be, we'll get through this. And I just looked into her eyes and I started to cry and I said, you know what? This does suck. You're right. This is really hard. And I think saying that and letting them see that I was also having a hard time dealing with it, I think was validating to them. And I don't think I did enough of that.
I will piggyback off of that because I, like you, was always like, it's all fine. Everything's going to be great. Don't worry about it. And I didn't necessarily share with them things that I would find out, like at the doctor or, what I mean? Because I wanted to protect them. I didn't want them to necessarily have to worry about things that they didn't need to worry about. And in all fairness, they probably, when they asked me questions, I should have been more honest and open with them. And I should have, like you said, yeah, this is hard and I'm sorry. And I wish I could change it, but I never did that, because first of all, I never wanted to apologize for Justice, right? Because there's obviously nothing that she can do about who she is. There was nothing I could do about having to take her to all these appointments, but I wish I would have just validated their feelings and said, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I was gone. I'm sorry I missed that. I'm sorry that I'm not always here for you. Or sometimes when I am, I'm so involved in trying to find the next best thing to make Justice's life just a little bit better that I didn't give them necessarily all the attention that they deserved.
Well, and you're a mom, right? You want to protect them. You want to be portrayed, I'm strong. I'm going to be strong for you. We're going to, yeah. And you just forget about that.
I think it would have been very helpful for them to see me just crying, but I did that in the shower or in the car. Do you know what I mean? I kept all of that very
Right.
closed because I didn't want them to see me not being strong.
Right.
You have to be
Yeah.
strong. You have to be there for them.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah. So I wish I would have been more, for lack of a better term, vulnerable and shared some of that fear and the worries that I had. And maybe then they would have understood more why I put so much time into trying to find the next best thing for Justice. Maybe then they would have understood more.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And maybe in the back of my mind too, I'm thinking I don't want them to worry. I don't want them to have to think about this. But in doing so, I think it's just causing more frustration and angst and scariness for them by not talking about it. Because then I didn't realize in the back of my daughter's mind, she was thinking, "Oh my goodness, this is my life. When mom and dad are gone, I'm dealing with this. Maya's going to be living with me. I'm going to have all this financial pressure of, making sure her needs are met and her supervision is met when she didn't know that we were already thinking of, what's going to happen to Maya. It's not her issue. This is mom and dad's going to take care of this. So, then kids create their own narratives in their head if you don't talk to them about it.
Mm. That is the biggest thing. If you don't share things with them, kids will come up with the worst case scenarios because as human beings, right, we catastrophize things. I don't know about you, but I do. If I hear something, my brain automatically goes to the worst case scenario. So I think sharing with them, again, age appropriate, right? We don't need to give them more information. But if they ask a question, I find giving them, again, if I could go back, because I didn't do all of this, but to give them the answers exactly what they're asking, and only the information that they're asking. I think it would ease their fears and maybe, again, make it less scary for them and more understanding as to why we are so wrapped up in the Prader-Willi world.
Right.
Has anybody thought about therapy or, when your kids are younger, was that a thing? Like get them a counselor? Lisa, you're nodding your head. Yeah. Is that
Yeah.
something that you think about or you do?
So around 9 or 10, Madison started just withdrawing, and just real quiet all the time and couldn't figure out what was going on. And she wouldn't express anything. So we did. We took her to a therapist because we wanted her to have that safe space to be able to just talk whatever she was feeling. It could be nothing, could have been everything. And just have a place to be able to express things. And then what it did was eventually it allowed her to kind of open up a little bit more to us as her parents and just be able to kind of express kind of what she was feeling and maybe feeling left out sometimes. And then why things were the way they were. Obviously, food's an issue. And trying to understand why she didn't understand. Why do we have to not have these things around? Or why are we eating all together at this time? And why can't I have this whenever, And we really try now work as a family, but she was able to eventually just start to express a little bit more. We had some other issues that were kind of going on, and we were able to kind of just understand it and figure it out because she was finally able to just open up a little bit more to us about what she was kind of feeling because she learned how to express it. I mean, I think it's a great way for kids to just, if they're not understanding or having a hard time, just let them, once a month even, just go to somebody else and not be mom or dad questioning them. What's going on here, there, here, there. It's just somebody else that can let them vent and not internalize so much.
I agree with Lisa. It was probably about 10 or 11 when my oldest she just started having a lot of anger issues, and she seemed unhappy. And I was all about therapy for myself, but I never really thought about it for her. And when I started to bring her to therapy, I did have some people say, well, there's nothing wrong with her. Why are you bringing her to therapy? And I almost felt a tinge of guilt, like, oh my goodness, am I doing something wrong? But now what I know, it is absolutely okay to send your kids to therapy. And if, maybe the first therapist isn't the right one, but find one that gels with your child, but it is absolutely okay. And I think it was a good thing that we did that.
It was really a good thing. We actually did family sessions with just our sibling, or Madison, who's not Prader-Willi, and then my husband and I, because that was a safe space for her to kind of, and the therapist to guide us, to figure out, help us in a natural, kid-friendly way of what she was feeling and how to support what she was feeling and get it validated, and then allow us to kind of try and support her in a way that made sense to her. So it really opened our eyes and how to balance a little bit more her needs and when she was feeling what she was feeling, and it not be anger, because some of it in the end was a resentment, I guess, because of that attention. Everything's Prader-Willi. That's what mom does, and how to navigate to some of that.
Freya sees a therapist at school now because I asked for that. And I offered it to Rona. I asked her if she wanted to, but she said no. It's been really helpful for Freya, but I think maybe I should push a little more with Rona because I'm sure she's internalizing stuff. So yeah, I think therapy's a great tool for people.
But school's a great way to start too, because we did that with both of my girls in school. I think it's the easiest way. It's a supportive environment already, and they both got a chance to just be able to get pulled out. They thought it was neat, almost a positive thing, because they had to get out of class and they would go talk to somebody and they'd make things or whatever. But we both did it. And then that was how we kind of were able to say, okay, well, it just allowed her sister to open up a little bit more and find ways to communicate a little bit easier with us rather than just a push and pull and being shut off all the time. Because ultimately, we just wanted her to be able to let us know what she needed, what she was struggling with, what she truly just was feeling. And our day-to-day world is very different from other families. So to have it validated she's been able to slowly open up. The school's a good way.
And it opens the door.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, Rona is both my girls are going to the conference this year. My younger girls, I say both, I have three. My two younger girls are going to the conference this year, and I'm really excited for both of them. And I'm really excited for Rona to be around other siblings and to be able to talk about it. And have you all experienced that, taking your kids to like conference or some kind of group with other siblings? If so, how did that go?
I mean, my oldest daughter, she came and spoke at the conference one time in a sibling panel. I think that went well. I did not go in there because I didn't want her to not feel free to speak freely. So I, from what I've heard, it went well, but I can't actually speak to it. But my kids have never been in the sibling program because I didn't start until my kids were older. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I've asked my kids if they've wanted to go, and they just haven't been interested. So it's sort of become Maya and my special thing that we do. But then I will go, me and the other two, we have gone on some trips just with them. And that's been nice because no Prader-Willi. We don't talk about Prader-Willi. We eat when we want. We eat what we want. And so it's my time to just, even if it's just a day or, just an outing, it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but I have tried to, what do you want to do? So it's our special time together.
I brought only McKenna the last conference, and so she loved it and had a great time living her best life over there, which was amazing to see because we've never been truly around an entire, other than our Arizona chapter, events and things like that. McKenna's glowing, but conference was just amazing for her. And so we didn't have her sister come in because it was a little different. Husband was there, just all of these things, but because it's in here in Arizona now, I mean, I would love her to be around more and kind of experience, I don't know, just a place to be around other kids that are like her. Not her in a sense, but have the same sort of lifestyle that's all she's ever known.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's important. And like I said, I'm excited to see what Rona gets out of it.
I think she'll get a lot of it out of it. I think it's so important. I mean, as a mom, right? It's important to be around other moms that totally feel what you're feeling or going through. So I think siblings have the same needs. They have the same concerns as, other siblings. And it would be nice for them to be able to go, yeah, that was a hard day. Listen to what happened to me. You know what I mean? And just have somewhere where you can share and people aren't like, not judging, but like, what the heck? How, you know what
What is going on in your house?
Right. Yeah.
What is happening? Yeah. It's almost like, it's like an embarrassment for Maddie when all of these things happen, or she's embarrassed. She doesn't want to have friends over. She doesn't want to do all these things. But I'm like, if she can be around other siblings or other, younger kids, that kind of happens at their home too, maybe. And that, how do their families, maybe, what do they do? Or maybe just, where do you go? Just things that it might be a good space. I mean, a great space for the kids to just, what does your sister do or your brother, and just kind of find that bond and what do they do? And maybe it's just a safe space. Like you said, moms need moms. Dad probably needs dads. Obviously, siblings need some sort of outlet
I
to
think
talk
also
in their own way.
Yeah, and I think also at the conference, it's a good place for siblings to see other people with PWS, right? To say like, look, there are other people with PWS, and they all have different needs. They're all at different levels. They all have different skills, and they all have different beautiful qualities, right?
Mhm.
That I think if our kids see, because most of them know like one person with PWS, their sibling, right? So that is kind of what they gauge everything on. And they can be like, oh, all of these kids seem to have anxiety. Okay, this is kind of normal. So then it becomes not so overwhelming for them.
I think it's so important for no matter who you are, for the kids, for me, for my husband, just to know that you're not alone. I mean, it just helped me immensely when I met people. And I even put my oldest daughter in a sib shop once, and I said, will you just go to this? Please just go. And she didn't really want to go, but she's like, she does, she's the good daughter that does what I ask. So she went, and she actually liked it because she met kids that maybe didn't have a sibling with Prader-Willi, but they had other needs, and she liked it. She wasn't alone. So I think it is really important that they do meet other siblings that are dealing with the same issues.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I found with my oldest daughter, who's 20, is that she has friends that she went through high school with, and she's just like the last few times that she's been home, she's met up with them at parties. She's like, "Oh, I just learned that so and so has a sibling with Down syndrome," or like, she actually had a bigger community of siblings, but none of them are talking about it at school or when they're hanging out. And I thought that was interesting, and maybe they should talk about it more. I guess I don't know, or. Oh.
And you never know who you'll meet. Maya was, when she was in high school, she was in adaptive field hockey, and my older daughter went with me to the game. She met one of the boys who was also in a field hockey. She met his brother, and now they're dating. So you never know. We will meet.
Well, I can tell you two siblings that worked at the camp. They both had siblings with PWS, and they ended up getting married. So
Wow.
yeah, you don't know who you
Okay.
might meet.
No, you never know.
I love that.
I love it. That's great.
Do you find that your siblings have a greater capacity for empathy because of their lived experience, their family life? Like, are they able to kind of tap into things that maybe they would otherwise have not had access to without having the sibling with PWS?
I think we all like to think our kids will be empathetic and compassionate no matter what their situation, but I really do feel like it has really I've seen it so apparent in my two kids, Maddie and Mallory. I mean, Maddie right now is she's working on her PhD to research rare diseases. And I don't think she would have done that if she didn't have a sibling like Maya. I honestly don't think that would have been her career choice. And my other youngest wants to be a doctor. So I think it kind of is driving them to their career choices. But they are good kids, and they've been through a lot. And I think they're very accepting of differences too. That's a notable thing I see too.
That's what I was going to say. Is I definitely see in all four of my other children the acceptance, like when they were in high school, that they made sure that everybody always felt welcomed at their table. Do you know what I mean? If there was somebody sitting on their own, they were the first to run over and ask them to be with them. They were friends with everybody in the school, no matter what. And so I don't know that that would have been the same. I mean, I have really good kids, but I think that they took time to notice those that maybe had some differences and intentionally took time to go and talk to them and be their friend.
Yeah, and and they notice things too. I'll never forget. Maya sat with all of her friends in high school at the table, and they all had special needs. So they had a special, that's just where they sat, and that's Maya chose to sit there. She, at that point in her life, when she was a senior, she wanted to sit with her friends, and her friends had special needs. So I was like, okay, if that's what makes you happy. And my oldest daughter was sitting at a different table and was just watching, not many people were talking to them. They were talking to the kids at Maya's table were talking to themselves. But she noticed the principal. He came up to their table and he started talking to all the kids. And she noticed that. And she thought that was important enough to tell me. And I'm like, how many people would have noticed that this principal took the time to talk to these kids individually? And then that made me think of that he was a really good principal, right? Because he's talking to everybody. So they just noticed different things.
I had Rona's teacher a couple years ago tell me she had a couple challenging kids in the class, and she told me that Rona was always a good person to sit them next to because Rona was able to handle kind of their energy and their, which I was really proud of that, that Rona is so capable and so open and kind, and but there was a little part of me that was like, oh man, she's got to do that at home. Like, I don't want her to have to do that at school too. Yeah, it was an interesting feeling. I kind of felt a little both ways about it, but
How do you think she felt about it?
I mean, she is genuinely a very empathetic person. Like I see that in everything that she does. So I think that, and when she talks about some of these kids, like she is happy for their successes. Like she'll tell me like, oh, so and so created a science project in the back of the room. And, so she does seem to genuinely enjoy her interactions with all these kids. So I think she was okay with it. But again, because I am her mother and like I see a bigger picture, I worry like, is it all going to catch up with her someday? And, whatever. There's so much more to talk about with siblings. Do you feel like there's something missing from this conversation? Like we could have this conversation over and over and over again. I think we should. But for this conversation today,
No, I don't necessarily know that we're missing anything. I'm glad that we are addressing this, and I wish that this would have been addressed years ago. I wish that I knew for sure how to best support other parents, to make sure that they are giving the siblings everything that they need. So I think that that's at PWSA, that's what we really want to do. We want to make sure that the siblings are getting all the support and love that they need. So
Hopefully this is like a good stepping stone to just open that door a little bit. Maybe it's
yes,
a crack of a door, but then you get maybe other family members, like you said, that are maybe reach out to you, to you, Kristi, or whoever, and just that door starts to open. And then as that becomes a safe space now to talk about, it creates a bigger picture for the organization as a whole, implementing how to guide it. We've talked about it before, just it's, what do families need? What do they want? What are they looking for out of everything? And how can we get the support? So if we can open that door a little bit and get minds going, I think it's
yeah, and I think just having this conversation
Mhm.
lets other parents know, because I think there's kind of I don't want to say a shame, but a shame and guilt, that you're not doing enough, and so people just don't talk about it, right? So I think that if they know that every single one of us, at least the four of us here, so I know there's more of us, right?
There's more
Feel
of us.
right, that feel that way, and I personally want to make sure that we get everybody the support that they need, even if it's just someone to just listen to. Because wouldn't it have been nice to just be like, "Oh my gosh, I totally failed my daughter. She was supposed to do this, and I messed that up," just to have somebody to share that with. So
Mhm.
it's
Now like open
difficult.
forum, like
Yeah,
create spaces somewhere like a convention and whatever, just spaces where people are just an open, they
and
can just talk.
we're gonna have a great sibling program.
Yeah.
Or, a sibling program for the siblings, and we're also going to have a session for on siblings. So I'm hoping that that will also kind of foster that feeling of not being alone. It's hard. Again, raising children is hard. We throw in the PWS aspect, and it just compounds everything. So I just want everybody to know that they're not alone in their feelings of feeling perhaps inadequate as a parent, because you're not, right?
Not
We're all
Mhm.
doing just the best that we can.
Right. It's great to hear about other people. I mean, what other stories, what they're doing, this and that, because we're on, in the end, we're all the same. Like we're all the same. We all have Prader-Willi syndrome as part of our worlds. So if we can just make each day better and figure out the supports that other families, it's just, I don't know. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll learn from each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have a feeling you guys have some ideas that would just like help so many other families. My kids are all older. So again, I can just look back and go, yep, boy, I sure messed that one up. But, you know, but I can also take from what I've learned from, some of the mistakes I've had and help other families, move forward. So I think together, I think all of us, we'll be able to help a lot of other people.
Thank you for listening to this episode of PWS United. If you want to learn more about Prader-Willi syndrome and how PWSA USA is making strides in advocacy, family support, and research, visit www.pwsausa.org. And while you're there, we encourage you to sign up for our Pulse email newsletter to stay informed about the latest news, resources, and events. Don't forget to subscribe to the PWS United podcast so you never miss an episode. Our team is always available to support families and their loved ones living with PWS 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You can call us at 941-312-0400 or email info@pwsausa.org. Catch a new episode next Tuesday, and until then, have a great week.